Get on, Will Perry here. Hi, how you doing? I hope you're well on this Wednesday evening, or if you're on the replay, say replay below. Don't need the hashtag, but just say replay. Share where you're from, where you're watching this from at the moment that you're watching it. So tonight, Masterminds. You might be one of the people, you might not, I've got Dolly Pops down here. Mummy's away, so Dolly Pops is down here. Oh, she just opened her eyes. Bottle in on the automated swing. We should see how this goes. The internet was taken over by 250,000 pounds. 250,000 people watching a live stream with Tony Robbins and Dean. I forget his surname. Forgive me. In it, they were talking about business and knowledge and getting it out there and how people like to learn. And Masterminds was the key aspect of that, and it was very gratifying and confirming because I've been working in Masterminds for quite a few years, and in fact I did it at the BBC. I left the BBC in 2004, so that's quite a while, isn't it? What are we in? 2019, so 2004 feels quite relatively recent to me. If you're old, there's probably somebody watching this born in 2004. Anyway, I'm here talking about what is Masterminds. It can be all sorts of different things. It's just a name. But the way it was, let me just tilt that round. The way it was started with Napoleon Hill, the background of that, all sorts of different takes on what Masterminds are, but it's a great way of learning. They're usually sort of small groups and kind of put as the best way to learn. So they can go alongside programs, or they can go independently, or moving yourself forward, or all sorts of different businesses and business models out there. But lots of people use Masterminds. And Tony Robbins was saying that he predicts there to be an explosion in terms of Masterminds. So I thought, right, great. What opportunity, what perfect timing. Hi, Katie, how you doing? Lost with you. Get on. Booty. And a hello from Kent as well. Inga, how you doing? But Cornwall, get on. I'm Cornish, by the way. Sorry, the southwest tip of England. For those of our colleagues in the States, she's asleep, eyes closed. Good. Thank you for that. To share what my take on Masterminds is and why I feel they're so powerful. They kind of blow your mind. And yet it's quite a difficult thing to explain and get your head around and understand in a way. But I shall try. I have talked about certain aspects of this, but not purely this in this, purely this in depth. So they're so powerful. I'll talk about that a bit afterwards. But just very briefly, I'll talk about the article later. But there was an independent study done of a program I worked on, a big corporation thing, and the model that I'm going to talk about now, that was cited as the most successful aspect of it because it was group working. All right, the most successful aspect of it, and it was done on a scale of 50,000 people, so it's massive. And this was the most impactful thing, individually impactful thing, corporationally impactful thing. So it's good stuff. You're curious. And what's this saying? This is all about, the whole point about Masterminds is to get your brain in action, not just to sort of sit down and take in this expanding knowledge. Because if you, and I've said this before, but Faith found the link. I just saw as I pressed live, Faith went, where's the link? How do I find it? Anyway, you found it. The ever-expanding quest for or thirst for knowledge. I've said this before about breaking the shell of one's own understanding. The shell of your own understanding is the bit that holds you in. Knowledge expands forever and ever. So sometimes we look for knowledge, we go on to, and you probably, maybe this is you, but knowledge junkie. You think, oh, I'll do the next course, that'll be it. The next course will be it. I'd get this done, and that sounds good. I'll go and find out about that. Oh, I'll go and research about that. That sounds interesting. That's going to help me. Oh, I need to invest in that. That's going to help me. When really there's a deeper problem. And of course, I'm all about low self-esteem. So if that's the issue, no amount of knowledge will change it. All right, and I've said that many times before. So This is about not just expanding knowledge. Of course, with anything comes a bit of knowledge. Hey, from Stockholm. Who's that? Louise Perry? Never heard of you. Hello, wifey. Love you too. So it's not about just expanding knowledge, because knowledge won't move you forward in the issues where you're stuck, where you have problems. Necessarily anyway, it's rarely the knowledge, it's the application of knowledge, it's putting that knowledge into action. There's so many courses, so many academics, all these things that I've kind of mentioned that people go and get and think the knowledge will change it. Don't. It's getting in action with that knowledge that changes it. So these masterminds, and usually masterminds, whatever they are, whatever bent they take on the structure, they're about getting your knowledge into action, about being accountable, about, you know, plan, do, review. Plan, do, review. That was an old cycle for learning. You know, you plan something, you go and do it, and then you review, how did that do? And maybe you need to plan it again, review it, and do it and review it. So it's about getting your brain into action. So once, you know, it's the group and the structure helps you get this into action, and you become accountable to yourself, and kind of in some ways indirectly to the group as well. So they're really powerful. So if you want to get things moving, if you want to get your knowledge, or take maybe a little bit more knowledge, but put it into action rather than just being another academic course. And remember, academic means not real. Yeah, it's academic, that point. Is it? What we often find is that we work and come from our own perspective. We can only do that, can we not? You see my point? So we can't just say, oh, you know, unless we borrow somebody else's perspective. What's your take on this? And that's why it's really good to share something with, when you're stuck, to say, yeah, a problem shared and all that sort of, say to what you've done with, you love what I've done with Masterminds. Thank you, baby. So yeah, so do I. Very excited, but this touches my passion point, absolutely. So when we get stuck down a dead-end alley, we, from our own perspective, can't see any other way. We're sure it's a dead end. So that's where we get stuck, for example. Why are you laughing, Mazzy? It's my wife sending me lots of love hearts. So when we get stuck at a dead end, we can become a bit fixed, a bit sure that that's a dead end, and we might be able to ask somebody, and they might say, oh, if you try this, do that, what you need to do is or take a break or breathe or whatever. But it doesn't help change that perspective, because it's not enough. However, the structure of Masterminds is about solving these problems, but it's not about solving how to. It's about having different perspectives. So maybe you've got a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. So maybe, yeah, thank you. That's going to prompt the love hearts. So six other people with other perspectives sharing how they see it. And it maybe isn't a dead end. It's an opportunity to step up. But once that different perspective, you can pick and choose from that different, or those 5 other different perspectives. It's amazing what that opens up in your mind. It's like, Christ, I never thought of it like that. I've never stopped with the love hearts, all right? Don't. So just having these different perspectives, but not being told what to do, just having access to those different perspectives is gold, right? Because you don't, in normal life, you go, oh, I've got a problem. You go, oh, this is what you can do if you try that, It's like, yeah, no, I'm not listening. Stop with the love hearts. So this emanates, it can be tracked down, although if you look at it, it's not directly, but it goes back to the Quakers in the 1600s. The Quakers used to have clearance committees. So when somebody had an issue, somebody was stuck, you know, down their alleyway, or they had a difficulty that they needed to resolve, they would go to the elders, but not to be told by the elders. What the elders would do is create a clearance committee, but then just have the elders. They would have a diverse group of people there. And what they would do is ask questions. How powerful is that? To ask questions, to help you explore and get that thread, and actually get that thread a little bit further, because you haven't thought of it on your own, because you're not being asked from different perspectives. You're only being asked from your one perspective, and there's only so much you can see with one perspective, if you see my point. So they would ask questions from different perspectives, from their own perspectives, from how they see the problem. All right. So it's not about pushing somebody down an alleyway. You must do this. You must go up this ladder. You should do that. You should do that. Or even, have you tried that? That's the way to go, because their perspective says it is. If you presuppose that your perspective is right, then it's not going to work in this. Because what you want to do is offer perspective. And from that, somebody else might go, the client, we call it a client, I'll tell you more about that, but the person who's stuck might go, oh, just a minute, that's made me think, I haven't seen it like that before. What I could do instead is, boom, 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 they come to their own conclusion. And that's what the Quakers were all about in these clearance committees, not pushing and suggesting because they are wise and old. Remember, it wasn't just the elders, it was a diverse group, young people as well, So it wasn't about pushing people or suggesting, it was about asking insightful questions. So this takes me to the 60s. I've got a presentation and I pull up the picture of Reg Revens, who was cited as the grandfather of action learning. Now that's the structure that I use for my masterminds, action learning. So if there's anybody learned in there, anybody that's come across action learning, and action learning has a few different takes as well. So it's a bit like masterminds, it's a word and you can do all sorts of things underneath it. But Reg Revens had this approach in the 60s where he kind of revolutionised the personal development and professional development, corporational development, organisational development in the 60s, late 60s, and he became very famous for it. He's a professor of learning. Oh, I forget what university he was from. And what he, sorry, I've got a lovely picture of him, and I did that because he is quite cute. A picture of him looking old and cool, and it's just quite a cute picture. I'll put it below if you want, but you'd have to ask for it. So. What he did was take this kind of approach, but gave it a really rigorous structure, and really based on these asking insightful, powerful questions. Now, I love the thing that he came up with was saying. Around that time there were unions going on and real challenging times with the unions, and what he said was, and his perspective was, that in these tranches of management, there's so much knowledge, golden nuggets of knowledge. Yet the approach was to get rid of the management and get new management in, or to get a management consultant in to tell the management what to do. When he said, all the knowledge is in here, it just needs to come out. It just needs to be accessed. This knowledge, does that make sense? I mean, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? But of course, when through the 80s and the 90s, you get hatchet people coming in and mavericks and saying, no, not like this, get a new team in, we've done it like this, and going from corporation to corporation, and terrible stuff, because all that knowledge was just cut out and thrown away. So what he did was use and utilize this gold nugget of knowledge, this seam of knowledge, and he'd use these structures to be able to access it. And I was thinking something he did. He got Belgium brought him over. The government brought him over, and he did work with the government in Belgium. And they had it's a great case study. They had a huge turnaround in Belgium, so not just in organisations or corporations, but in Belgium. I can't remember that enough to cite it, but there's amazing stuff that he did. Using this approach, so not coming in as the expert, but in actually fact having, and I love this phrase, comrades in adversity, in action learning, comrades in adversity. So these management who've been, seam of management who've probably been put up with shit over the years, yet have got all the knowledge in the business. Does that make sense? They have all the knowledge. And I'm sure if you're in a corporation, especially a big one that's a bit slow and crappy and repeats the same cycle every 5-7 years, you've seen this seam of knowledge being cut out and thrown away and discarded because people don't know how to access it. He knew how to access it, and he said, we're going to work, because these are the comrades in adversity, and we're going to work with these people in a structured, facilitated way. And the impact was amazing. Lovely. So I love this fact of comrades in adversity, and that's why I use it with the group of people that I use it with. I'm all about self-esteem, helping people grow their self-esteem, because self-esteem fucks you up in every aspect if you don't have it. Or low self-esteem fucks you up in every aspect of life, every aspect of life. So learning from, rather than an expert, and I don't position myself as an expert, I have a lot of knowledge on this subject, a lot of knowledge. Right, and I've been through it. I've been through this stuff, and been in abusive relationships and been brought up in a negative environment. So this idea of working with comrades in adversity, people who have experienced the same stuff as you, people who have been through similar stuff, people who also have maybe got low self-esteem and wanting to work through it at the same time as you. That is the rich seam of gold nuggets. And that is a lovely and very safe and not comforting, maybe uncomfortable sometimes, but because nothing should be too comfortable in learning. But I believe, there's the people that are going through the same stuff as you, and they've been through and experienced the same adversity, and maybe have to face the same. That's such a rich seam of gold nuggets there, and that's a wonderful place to work with and group of people to work with. Or, let me ask you, would you rather work with a kind of maybe a cold and clinical expert who's got a PhD? I know which one I'd rather. And I've worked I was going to say a huge number. I have worked in a huge number of action learning sessions. So I love this approach because it doesn't presuppose that you're the expert and that you have more knowledge than the person that you're helping, the person that's stuck in front of you. It doesn't presuppose that at all. And it doesn't presuppose it by saying, oh yes, you should do this. It doesn't push them into the course of action that they should take. Does this make sense? So this is a wonderful development tool. This is a wonderful way to help somebody develop and find their own answers. And I love it. So there's a different structure here. Say, how many people do we have? We've got the same number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got the 6 people here. 5 people. Anyway, one of them's me. Between 5 and 10 people in these masterminds that I run. Other people might do them bigger. One person in the sessions that I run, one person that evening will be, on average anyway, sometimes I mix it around a bit, but one person will be this person that's stuck. And they'll explain what their situation is, and there's a real tight structure for this stuff. And it stops you pushing and saying what you should do is this. It stops you suggesting and finding a solution, because that's a natural tendency when we're having a coffee, when we're having a conversation. It's like, oh, have you tried that? Oh God, I know that exactly. I did that. What I did was boom. It's presupposing you're the expert and you know better than them. It's not the case. And I'm not saying that's not, that's perfectly appropriate in conversation, in the normal environment. This is a very special environment, a learning environment about putting your brain into action and moving stuff forward. And that's what makes it so powerful, because, I'm getting emotional. Because I really care about this stuff and I'm really passionate about it. I love it. Because it's so mind-bending, because it's so simple. You think, just people asking me a question, how can that blow my mind and move me forward when nothing else has helped? Comrades in adversity, tapping into this rich seam of knowledge, of gold dust. So everybody else that isn't that stuck person we call the client, if you're not the client, you're the consultant. So you're the person that has to ask these insightful questions, not pushing, not presupposing you know better, but finding out, really listening, really tuning into the perspective here and go, my perspective is different. Let me share it, but in a structured and appropriate way. And that is given by, it's a guided process, it's a facilitated process, all right? So the facilitator will give that structure. And if somebody's trying to accidentally, unbeknownst to them perhaps, give advice, no, maybe save that for later. Could you rephrase that question in a different way to ask rather than push? Why don't you, that's pushing. What else could you do? That's pulling. Yeah, it's a subtle thing. Okay, so there's a facilitated process and there's a real structure to it, but it's so powerful, and you can't really, it makes me think, until you experience it, you can't understand it fully. But that's like so many things in life. I remember a friend back at the BBC saying he was as prepared as he could be to become a father for the first time. And I feel slightly wobbly saying it, because when I saw him, and I was quite young at the time, when I saw him as a new father for the first time, he just broke down. He said, as much as we prepare for it, nothing can prepare you for that moment when everything changes. And I'm not saying this is like childbirth, but I can make some analogies to it. So it's really, until you go into it, you can't really explain it or experience it or expect to understand it to the depth that it happens. But I've got some testimonials on it, of course. So Rich Evans, he would get quizzed by it, because it's quite a simple thing in many ways, yet there's so many depths and nuances to it, so many different layers to it in terms of facilitation, so many different approaches, so many different things to watch out for, when to push in and be firm, when to, hands off. And he got asked continually, especially when he got the focus on him, because he was getting so many good results, turnarounds when nothing worked before. So people would ask him, what is it? How does it work? What is it? So he, in a kind of playful way, maybe a playful as a professor would be, Dolly pops fast off. As a playful professor, and he was quite a character by all accounts, he would, and a people person, he came up with this equation, because he thought, well, that played up to the role of professor. So he came up with a learned academic equation for this learning. Ladies and gentlemen, I've made it colourful. Learning, L equals P plus Q. And I think that amused him, because he got asked so many times, but he used it as a conversation starter. Learning equals program knowledge, everything you know, but maybe you don't know, and the stuff that you don't know that you don't know, all that stuff, plus insightful questions. Those two together, get an insightful question with your knowledge, you will get learning. Now that doesn't really say it, does it? And he intended that. It was like, what? That doesn't, you need to, it's a hook, isn't it? Is it not? So that was his take on action learning, and it's a lovely one. Learning plus learning, you will learn when your knowledge, and you get these insightful questions. And where do the insightful questions come from? They come from other perspectives. That's kind of what makes them insightful. Yet they have to have the right sort of questions. There's lots of things you can do to help become aware of your questions. If you haven't been through management or something, you haven't gone through the corporations where you got trained in this stuff, or if you're not a coach or stuff, coaching, you don't know what coaching questions are, you don't know what a powerful, insightful question is. So obviously it's my role as a facilitator and as somebody owning this whole process to help you with. And one of the things is, for example, there are 3 levels of listening. It's a really simple thing. I can't remember whether I've shared it here before, but 3 levels of listening. I think I put it in, yes, it's in my free masterclass. But first level is, because we listen on different levels and we have a preference, a bit like left-handed or right-handed, or right-handed, left-handed. We have different preferences for different questions even. We usually are subconscious of that, we're not conscious of it. So first level is fact. Some people are real detail people. I'm a detail person, but some people really get caught up on the detail of something. So you're saying this is, because we outline the issue. All right. So when did that, and what day did that happen, and when did that happen? How much detail is there? It's a bit like knowledge. It never ends. It goes on forever. You could get into the minutiae, and it would never end. And then your slot would be gone. The time you have for the whole solving of the problem would be taken up with asking detailed questions. So that's useful. You need the bones, the structure, the skeleton, in terms of the detail, the facts. But then you need to learn to move on and put that together with something else. And the something else is the second level of listening, which is you're listening out for the emotion. How do they say it? What emotion are they giving it? What are they? How did that feel? How did it feel when they said that they felt? How did they look? So picking up for the cues in the face. Did they flush when they said it? Did they get emotional? All these cues that we give out, but also, what are they literally saying about how it felt? Or in your questions, do you want to ask her, how did that feel? How would you feel? How would you like to feel? How did it feel when? How did it feel? But equally, people get caught up on the emotions. I'm very an emotional person. I love to ask the emotional questions, but I know if I just sit there asking level 2 questions, emotional questions, it won't help me move on. It won't help me build it together and get to the insightful bit. So that won't, these insightful questions. So that won't help. So I need my facts, the bare bones. I need to put a bit of meat on it, which is definitely the gold nugget to the emotion, because that, there's so much goodness in the emotions. When we've got emotions, we've got something that matters. If something matters, then, there might be something juicy there. What's holding you back? It's something that matters to you. So there's going to be some emotion around it, even if you're not aware of it at the time. So you need the facts, the skeleton, the bare bones. You put some meat on it in terms of asking these emotional questions, finding out the emotional, where the emotion lies, what's hot, what's not, and that's not getting the right answer, being able to be clever enough to get the right answer. It's being light enough and curious enough to sort of say, oh, maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing. And how easy and light is that? Because if you're anything like me, that you've been through, well, I was dyslexic, so I thought anything academic, I immediately have a negative voice about it. I can't do that, I'm stupid, I can't, you know. This isn't about that. It's not anyone, that's why having a CEO and a male secretary, so I'm not sexist here, in a short skirt and glasses, a male secretary in a short skirt and glasses with a CEO is brilliant, if only they would both allow it, all right? Because the difference of perspectives, the diversity is good in this. So it's not about being academic or clever or all on the same level. However, so level one is your facts. You need the facts, but you need to move on from that to be able to put stuff together, to really ask insightful questions. The emotion is so important. If you find it difficult to ask emotional questions, that's something we can help you with and absolutely, you know, help you develop. And I can model. But on its own, that's not going to get there. It's just going to get to a very empathetic way. You need to do more than that. Well, for me, that's what we do in conversation. Oh, that must be so difficult. Oh, God, that sounds awful. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh, I don't know what to do. It makes me feel bad, you know. We need to get our intuition working, right? How do we get our intuition working? Well, we need the facts, right? We need the emotion. No, it's cold there. Oh, that's hot. Oh, that's uncomfortable. That's difficult. Oh, you've got a lot of emotion around that. Could it be that, oh shit, never thought of it like that. Could it be that, oh wow, God, yeah. Because you've got questions coming from a different perspective, and they're insightful questions now because you've got the 3 levels of listening factored in. Your listening has tuned into these 3 different levels and gone, okay, let my intuition work here. Remember, it's not getting it right, might be something, might be nothing. Might be something, might be nothing. So it's having a lightness about it, and this is a whole approach. I've listened to this person, they're saying this, the emotion is around here. This is occurring to me, so you can ask a question around that. Is it that, you know, and this is, you know, getting your intuition to work is stuff that they are not saying. So how can you read between the lines? I mean, that's what it is, isn't it? Reading between the lines. Is it that ... And when you get somebody thinking like that, it's brilliant, you know. Christ, I never you know, blimey. Well, that's, you know, what that's making me think now is that I need to question that again, you know. So if you can get somebody thinking, that's just brilliant. Or, you know, they might go, you might say, is it ... And you might be thinking, oh, I'm onto something here. I'm really excited by this question. I've got level 1, 2, 3. Or I'm onto something because they said it. You know, I'm onto something. They go, no, it's nothing. And that's really cool because it might be something, it might be nothing. All right. So your intuition doesn't mean you're right, and that's what a really nice thing to let go of. It's not about being right. It's about helping somebody. You know, pulling from their head what it is, but from your perspective, because you can only work from your perspective, can you not? So it's a really interesting, I feel it a privilege to be part of this sort of learning. It's a wonderful thing to be part of. So, you know, having these 3, you know, this is very simple as well. You know, this isn't coaching questions. This is, you know, but we've got tons of other information, obviously, to help people. But, you know, just being aware of these 3 levels of listening and going, I'm asking too many emotional questions. I've got the emotion. I need to now do something with that and, you know, help leverage that. And it's like, yeah. I've asked too many questions about fact already. I need to, you know, move on to emotions. Now I've got these 2. I've got a bit of something going on. What could that be? So ask some questions using your intuition. Really start, you know, opening the issue up and breaking the shell of their understanding, which is just a wonderful place and a wonderful experience. So in terms of, you know, that's a sense of what this stuff is. This doesn't come out too well, I don't think. It says big. Because I said I do action learning. I call it Masterminds. In what I do now, or with my own business, with doing it with specifically for people with low self-esteem, helping them grow their self-esteem. So they get out of the traps that they're in, you know, by putting their learning into action, by being pragmatic, by taking action whereas they haven't before because they've self-sabotaged. And all the stuff I've talked about before, that's what makes this so powerful. I remember Tony Robbins saying this is just going to explode over the next few years. So I'm privileged with this stuff. My experience on action learning, and this is taking the structure from Reg Evans and going back to the Quakers and all that sort of stuff. My experience was when I was very fortunate to be part of the BBC, in the place of the BBC, which was learning and development, when we were tasked to do a leadership development change culture for the whole of the BBC. At that time, the biggest number one priority was a bullying culture. So it's a difficult cultural change program, and I didn't know anything about this stuff. I was a manager that had done training and led my interest was really in what made people change, because I found it really interesting why some people would change, others wouldn't. And of course I found it difficult in my own journey as well. I was still stuck and had low self-esteem, although I didn't understand it at that time. I didn't understand that stuff. We were very tasked with this massive multi-million pound leadership program for the whole of the BBC, so it was a really exciting place to be. There were so many elements to take on, and one of the elements was this thing we said, and we worked with Ashridge Business School, which is one of the consistently top 20 business schools in the whole world. So we worked with Ashridge Business School, and it was just like amazing, because you've got these esteemed, wonderful professors and very clever people, academics, mainly academics, but pragmatic people there that have been in business, but mainly academics, very clever, smart people, consultants, the experts that came in, and they suggested that we do action learning, and I had some experience in the BBC with action learning, because we did it as part of the development structure for and continual program of development for coaches. I was a coach at the BBC, so I was in the right place at the right time, and nobody's picking up this little bit called action learning, although it was going to be massive across the whole of the program. So myself and two colleagues from Ashridge took the mantle on this. I was the BBC representative on it, and they both supported me and helped me mould what it was going to be. And it was massive. We had like 70 facilitators at any one time. I can't remember the figures. Was it 500? It can't have been 500. I can't remember the figures. I know we had 70 facilitators that we needed for the pool. I've got the figures, but anyway, you don't need the figures. It was the biggest single implementation of action learning that Ashridge had ever seen, and they did this all the time. It was the biggest, and still is to this day. So it was a massive scale, a massive task, but it was massively important, and there were different battles that I had to win with my colleagues in Ashridge, and we had to wield experts in to do battle with the big wigs at the BBC, because they were doing their thing. They were saying, no, we want to do this and do action learning this way, and it was like, no, it needs to be about personal development. Anyway, we won the battle, and it was cited as, in an independent, because the BBC had to be very careful with where it's spending its money, it got independently assessed, this program, and action learning came out as the number one. And in terms of personal development, the impact of personal development alongside coaching, which of course one-to-one coaching is very impactful, alongside that was action learning, people going in their action learning groups saying they're particularly useful, particularly impactful, and it was the number one thing for changing the culture of the BBC. It was cited as being the most impactful intervention. Can you tell? I'm very proud of my experience there, and I always wanted to take this passion I had and use it. And I used it a little bit in Virgin. I used it a little bit in Age Concern. I used it a little bit in Mars, the confectioners. I used it a little bit, I can't think where else. But it was never quite the same, and I wanted to do it my way. I wanted to fight those same battles. But I was the consultant, the expert that brought in, it was irony. But I always had it in mind. And what I did with the Masterminds on this program that I've got, the Curious Case of What's Missing, for people with low self-esteem, helping them overcome their self-esteem. What I had in mind was do this as an add-on, because I knew it would be quite expensive. I knew, was my fixed thinking. So what I did was, I did the program a bit, had some people going through the pilot. It was like, no, I need this to happen. I don't want people to go through and not implement it. What was it, 9%? Tony Robbins was saying only 9% of people actually do the course that pay for the course. I wasn't happy with that. I need more people to get that, because I care about people overcoming this stuff. Oh, touching my emotions. I care about people changing this stuff, not getting the academic knowledge. They'll never, you'll never find a limit for your academic knowledge. It's not real. I like the real, the pragmatic, getting your brain into action. Crystal, hello from Texas. That's nice. I was just like, right, how can I do that? Boom, bring down that thing that was going to make expensive and exclusive, put it in the mainstay of the program. How cool is that? And just make the money work. It's not about the money, it's about the impact, about making it work. Oh, suck it up, Will. Because I care about this stuff. So I'm very proud of what I was carrying then, the BBC, and I've carried it with me, and I've put it into this program, my charge program about how to overcome low self-esteem, which fucks you up in every aspect of your life, by the way. You probably know all this because you've seen stuff from me. If not, go and check it out. That is my passion. I hope you see it as sincere and authentic. I'm a published, I'm published. I'm like I said, I was dyslexic. I had a stigma about my, being thick and ugly and stupid, and thick and stupid, same thing. I am published as an outcome of what we did. When I left the BBC, and my colleagues there, the two colleagues that I worked with from Ashridge, they said, we should do an article. It was such a big thing. It's such a success. And of course, then a new director general came in, and it was shelved. The whole program was shelved, but it still did good stuff, and it was amazing things. But yeah, it was shelved. So it was like, And they said, we should do an article. Will, why don't you do an article? Excuse me, wiping away the tears. And me doing an article. You're joking. But we did it together, the three of us. And it's the only thing that I've had published, and it's an article in Coaching at Work, the magazine Coaching at Work. And very proud of it. And God, was it like pulling teeth and torture to me, again, this dyslexia thing. I found it, I didn't know, I was challenging myself because of my low self-esteem, although I didn't realise it at the time. It was excruciating for me. And what Kathleen and Eric, the other two from beautiful people from Ashridge, they just said, we'll knock up our drafts and send it over to you, Will. And it was like, what do I do? Jesus. So I read their stuff, and it's like, okay, I get a sense of it and talking. But it was like, oh no, I played down my bit because it was like, oh no. So the whole self-esteem stuff is looking back on it, it was amazing. But I left the BBC as head of action learning. Now, Eric always teased me about that because he thought it was just the most magnificent title, because he'd never come across a head of action learning before, but they made me head of action learning before I left, because it was kind of doffing the cap to me to say thanks, which was a lovely, lovely thing that they did. Anyway, so I am published in one article, and yes, I do have that, and I would very happily send that to you if you want to find out on the organisational level what we did. But the evidence is there. It's wonderful. It's independent surveys. The evidence is there that this stuff works on a massive corporate scale. However, what I do, it's just small groups of people that really want to make a change, not just get that knowledge and hit that limiting belief, get there and say, I'm stupid, worthless, no good, crap, I know I'm ugly, I can't do it, other people can, I can't do it. No, I want to get beyond that. And I've got the system of emotion. I've got the system and the structure to be able to do that, and I'm really passionate about it, and I love it, and I'm very proud of my experience in this, and I'm very proud that I've done what I've done to put it in there, and taken it from this high expensive thing that I'll do one day someday, and I put it in now and gone with it, because I know it will bloody work, and it is working, and I love that. I love that it's working. Very passionate about it, and what we do, and you can find out more. In fact, if you do the masterclass, I go through the structure of it in there, and how it works, and how the program works, and what I've done with keeping the cost down. I've kept it at that level. I just have. So just make it work, just make it work. So what we have is 12 90-minute sessions. The first one's 2 hours, just because it's getting to understand it and meeting the new people. But you stay with your group for 12 sessions over a 6-month period. Everything's scheduled so that all of you can make it. It's not a dip in, dip out. It's not a recording. What's a recording? Sorry, I can't make it. It's not that. It's being there online with the same group of people in a facilitated environment, and bashing the hell out of your stuckness, blowing your mind, getting your brain in action. I feel really emotional. What it is in a nutshell is L equals P plus Q. So with that, I think I'm going to leave you to it, because I'm just getting far too emotional. far too emotional about this stuff because I care. Okay, so why am I getting emotional? I know why I'm getting emotional, because I keep pushing through, I keep pushing on, and I'm very excited for this. This is one of the pages that I'm doing in my new training. I'm updating my training. I'm doing the whole training on this. I've got some other pieces of paper, and I've done them all on this, so I'm quite excited about that as well. But yeah, I really bloody care about this stuff. So if you've got any questions, if you want to find out more, I will put the link, as I always do, below, so you can take the test. You can find out whether you have low self-esteem. You can find out about the free training I do. I packed everything into a free masterclass. You can just do that. It's recorded. It's there for you. And in that, at the end, is explaining how I make the masterminds work as part of the program. I've taken it from this exclusive, expensive thing and made it as an integral part of the program to blow your mind, get your brain in action, stop being stuck, using the structure, this rich vein of gold nuggets that's been there for years, that approach, and let you access it. And I've got the knowledge and the expertise. I'm an expert in this stuff, and I don't say that with any, I was thinking this earlier on, any arrogance at all. If you had the world's biggest, the world's leaders in masterminds or action learning or whatever it is, I would be able to stand up them and say I'm an expert at this stuff, and be really open to hearing what they hear, and very open to sharing what I do. I have no qualms about saying I'm an expert in this at all, because of my passion for that, my commitment, the knowledge that I have, the experience that I have, and I was very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. So, and it wasn't just being at the right place at the right time, but I'm not saying this with arrogance, but I am an expert in this stuff, and I love it. I'm so passionate that I've pulled that and put that and found a place for it finally. Found a place, and lo and behold, it's not with another company, it's not, it's in my stuff. It's come home. Oh, that makes me emotional. Okay, so any questions about that, find out. Obviously you can do the self-esteem test, only 2 minutes, or you can just contact me, or just say, wow, Will, you're really emotional today. Ask me a question, anything you want, but I will answer all your questions below. All right, many thanks for being on. Speak to you all soon. Many thanks for your support. It means the world to me, that I stand here and explain how I help people with low self-esteem, and especially if you have low self-esteem, I want to help you. All right, many thanks. Speak to you soon. Have a great week. See you next Wednesday. All right, bye-bye.